Welcome back to WARNO. So today we're going to do an 82nd Airborne build for Oudinot. Good news is in the latest hotfix it appears they have fixed the whole wavering trait and military police. Doesn't really help in the 82nd Airborne because there aren't any infantry with the wavering trait, but never mind, at least we know that that's fixed. So let's blast on through this. Straight away, M35 supply. I like my supply trucks, and then we're going to take this Chinook because it gives you 6,000 in total. We can probably send our lovely little trucks to resupply it. We can also use the Chinook to supply stuff behind the lines, artillery, helicopters, whatever. Then in terms of the three commands here, my ground choice would certainly be the Humvee because of its speed. It is 5 points more, but its speed makes a great difference, especially when you just have to race it around the points capping stuff. Not a huge fan of this. I know it has a little bit of armor, but that armor is going to do absolutely nothing. I'm actually going to take the chopper. You get 3 of them. It is the cheapest, and it will cap all the back points. Now, what you have to consider here is, yes, I can cap all the back points with this, but I can't really utilize it to cap stuff that is contested. I'd be pushing my luck to do that. So I'm probably going to end up taking infantry command, certainly a tank command in this deck. But I just thought I'd try something different and try taking the command helicopters. I may regret it and I might change it, but I'd like to experiment. Let's try and speed the infantry section up a little bit this time. I know I always go through it a bit too slowly. So first thing first, airborne engineers flash. They're airborne and they've got flash. The flash are ridiculous right now. I'm expecting a nerf, but I'm sticking them in anyway. Airborne engineers, we're taking at least one set of those, but we can have up to 3 cards, which is great, but we'll take 1 for now. But they're going to be pretty good up close and personal. They've got a 10-man squad, they've got plenty of weaponry. Now, in terms of other long-range stuff, military police, without a shadow of a doubt, we definitely want those recoilless rifles, obviously, as we know, are very good. We're going to get 6 of them now in a stack, but they are nonetheless still very, very good. Now, the airborne teams here, the Dragon teams, the AB Fire team, and the Fire Team 84, good units here. Now, my issue with these ones is you only get 5 of them. However, I think the AB Fire Team Dragons are fantastic for sticking in buildings. They're a small squad, stick them in the edge of a town, stick them in a forest. They're going to be a little bit of a long-range deterrent against vehicles. Bear in mind that most tanks are going to outrange them, though. So they are not the solution to a big tank, but they will deal with a lot of incoming, infantry fighting vehicles and things like that they can get a little bit closer to the town. So they have their benefits. Airborne Dragons, the bigger squad, 10-man squad, obviously a lot of firepower. Quite expensive, but a long-range Dragon 2 still. Certainly a good option. One of the things I quite like right now is the idea of taking the Airborne. These are a really good squad. They obviously have the Shock Troop trait, and they have an AT-4 launcher, which means that they've got almost the same penetration as the Dragon, but they're a little bit more up close and personal. I think these are great to send in with the Engineers Flash and things like that, and they're also not too expensive at 60 points. I'm actually going to take 2 stacks of those because I think they are just that good. Now, other than that, you've got still quite a lot of choice here. There is something to be said for the Tor 2. They are really expensive here, though, because they are also forward deployable. But you don't get any other long-range ATGMs in this section, which I think is a real shame. I wish there was just some standard TOWs, but it's not happening. So I'm actually going to take those. I won't rank them up, obviously, because then we'd be even less. They don't need to be ranked up. They're good enough. We still have 4 slots left here, and I already feel like we've got plenty of decent infantry. Bearing in mind that a lot of this infantry is already coming in as veteran, which is great. You could even possibly consider taking something like the Airborne at Elite, and just accepting that you'll get 6 of them instead. But I think, veteran is fine. Now, you can have a grenade launcher. You can have various machine guns. You also have the airborne gunners down at the bottom there. Again, the M60s, they're not bad, but again, I need to play around with them a bit more. There was a time, quite a few patches back, where these squads were absolutely devastating, but I'm not sure how they're performing right now. I need to play with them a little bit. So, I'd actually like to take the AB Fire Team Dragons, I think. mainly because I want them as something I can sit in buildings and just be a deterrent. They're just something to add to the firepower of things like the TOW 2 for when people get a little bit too close. I'd certainly consider taking something else like a commander here. There are some decent commanders. I mean, the airborne engineers leader has a 12-man squad. They're going to be hard to kill. I feel like that's a very good squad. Everything else is a little bit less. You could take more TOW 2s, but I really think they're very expensive, and because you only get 3, I think they're kind of a waste of a slot here. I'm leaning towards taking the airborne engineers leader because they are a full squad. They're elite. The only thing is you only get 2 of them, obviously, but I'm just considering stuff that I would want in a contested zone when I'm using the chopper command in this deck. So I think I'll take that. It may get removed later. I think you can easily do this without an infantry commander. I don't think you need one. I think you can easily just take loads of infantry. The military police, I'm not overly fussed by. I think it's nice that they've got the police thing, but they're only a 5-man squad, and they don't have really close-range weapons. If they had MP5s, maybe I'd reconsider that, because then they're going to do a lot of damage when you get up close and personal. I think we have better squads for that. I'm actually leaning towards taking another set of the airborne engineers. As I said, I might. And then I'm sort of torn between taking more airborne or more airborne dragons. You do have the aero rifles, but unfortunately they only come in choppers, and they are just a standard infantry squad with nothing special about them. So I think they're actually one of the weaker options here, other than the fact that, you know, they can come in a chopper if you're that way inclined, but I just don't see any great benefit to that. They're going to be fast response, but I mean, I don't know, I think it's really expensive to bring them in a chopper. And they're just not that good a squad. Maybe if they had assault, or shock troops, I should say, or if they were special forces, or something like that. Anything. Because a lot of the stuff in this deck is classed as shock, but not those ones. Now, my last slot here, I'm a little bit torn whether we try to take something that is a bit longer range, like, you know, the Mark 19 grenade launcher or one of the big machine guns. It's very tempting. Or if we just go with something like the airborne dragons, so we have a big squad with a longer dragon launcher for pushing a little bit further forward. It's a real challenge between these two squads because I think they're both very good squads. I'm really torn. I kind of want to take the dragon so we have a little bit more range, because I feel like one of the things we're lacking here is a bit of range because we're only getting 3 TOW 2s. Whereas, you know, we built some other decks where we've got like 8 TOWs, or on the other side we've got loads of Metis launchers. So we'll go with that and see where we get to. I think you could build the infantry here in very different ways and still achieve very good results. So don't feel you have to build it like this. Artillery, there isn't a lot to choose from here. It's actually pretty abysmal, but we might as well take what we have access to. And the best thing we have access to here are 4 of these. And then I guess we take some mortars. I'm taking these mortars purely because they're mobile. There is something to be said for these because they are higher damage, but mortars have been nerfed anyway. I mainly use them for smoking. They're good at harassment maybe, but artillery is going to be the thing that does more damage to people. So I'm happy with that. Tanks. Very limited choices here. This is very frustrating. You can get 1 card of the M11P, and now because you kind of need to rank them up for the whole suppression thing, I mean, that's it. You've got 4. Use them sparingly. The Sheridans, obviously, they come in at already ranked up, and you get 8 of them. I think they're not terrible. Obviously, the missile is atrocious, and the cannon is pretty meh, but they're going to be good at harassing infantry and stuff. They're not going to be great against enemy vehicles, which is why I would take the command, because I still feel like we need more command, and they're pretty cheap, good for a front line. And I also think you take the TOW 2 Humvee. You get 9 of them in a stack. I think you're going to be relying on missiles in this. Remember, missiles now do a huge amount of suppression. They are very good. I may even come back and put another stack or another card of those in, but let's move on to Recon first. So Recon, we get plenty of choices straight away. We're going with Bradley. We want that Tor 2. We want that range. Then we're thinking immediately about whether we go with these as well. We've got these with Hydras. I think they're quite expensive. I'm not really bothered about the fact they've got Hydras, but they do have exceptional optics. You only get half compared to this, but I'm going to stick them in. I still think there is now a justification for bringing helicopters, especially exceptional ones. Firstly, for having a bit more vision on the sides of the map so people can't get round behind and steal your points. Humvee with a grenade launcher, not really fussed there. Airborne scouts or the LRS. LRS are amazing at everything, and they obviously have the GSR. I would be sticking these in, bring them in a Humvee. I mean, the fact that they get GSR makes them exceptional. It means you've got 2 sets of exceptional. So I think that's well worth it for the price. Now, that leaves you with not a huge amount of Recon. So you either use it sparingly or you spend another 3 points. And the truth is, I'm going to spend another 3 points, and I'm actually going to bring in some airborne scouts just in a standard Humvee. You could also bring them in the Humvee with Recon as well, but I think that's enough. Because at least then we get 20 points back. Anti-air. Well, there's not a huge amount of selection here. We're certainly going to take some Avengers because, well, they're not horrendous and they have a decent accuracy. And we're not going to rank them up, obviously. We're going to take the Stingers just because I want something that can be up close and personal. At the front, sitting in buildings and stuff. And then we kind of have to take the Vulcan Cannon, don't we? Because that's all we get. I mean, anti-air has never been great in this deck, let's be fair. I don't think it's ever going to get any better. Obviously, you also have the choice of the helicopters. Could be quite useful early game. They will still miss more often than you would like when it comes to enemy helicopters. They might get more hits on big aircraft. I mean, let's be honest, the 82nd is an airborne deck. There is every reason to take a lot of helicopters here. I'm not a big fan of helo spam. I'm not going to do it. So if you want a helo spam deck, you can definitely build one. It is definitely still possible to helo spam. They're just not as effective as they were against a player who's prepared for it. But they're still potentially very effective. I mean, I watched Protoss do it on his stream live yesterday. It's still reasonably effective. There still needs to be adjustments. So yeah, I'm going with those just because I don't want to take loads of helicopters. Again, here you've got a load of single slots. We're going to have to fill them, aren't we? And the reality is, it's going to be with Apache rockets, I think. And it's all about the fact they get this awesome cannon, which is very good. So I would take at least 2. I would take both of those, I think. And then, other than that, do you take the... That's got rockets and the Hellfires. That's just got a load of Hellfires. I think you take that with the rockets and the Hellfires. You only get one of them anyway, but yeah, you could take a load of helicopters here. Let's not beat around the bush. You could definitely do that. I'm still not going to. I refuse. I refuse to get into too much helo spam. I'll do it as a joke now and then, but I just, it's not how I want to play the game. If you do, that's fine. That's on you, but it's not for me. Okay, so aircraft. Let's have some fun here. F-15C Strike Eagle. I'm taking both of those. Remember, we have a deck here with minimal anti-air. We're going to need those jets, and they are fantastic jets, let's be honest. You could also consider the F4 Phantom. You do get 4 of them in a stack, and they still have a long-range Sparrow. Obviously, they're just not as good as the Eagles, but I mean, you could technically stick them in here if you wanted. You get the A-10 rocket. I'm going to take a stack of those. You only get the 1 stack anyway. I wish you got the A-10 anti-tank, but you don't. Laser guided bombs. Obviously, laser guided bombs, if they're working correctly, will be absolutely fantastic. F-16C anti-tank. The Seed. Yes, we're probably going to want the Seed. Let's be realistic here. It also stuns now, remember, Seed. So if they get a hit near an enemy AA, they will stun it at least. Napalm, good, but expensive and not as good as having a load of HE. We've got the lovely cluster here with the rock eyes. I think I think I probably want to take that. And I'm certainly leaning towards taking the F-16C. I think, we have to take aircraft in this. It's an airborne deck. You're either going to take aircraft or you're going to take helicopters. And I think, yes, you can definitely build this deck with a load of helicopters and a load of aircraft and very little ground stuff and do very, very well. I think that is reasonably possible. So, we are at 46. If we take any more 3-point stuff, then we are automatically filling the deck because we'll be at 49. Or we can take 2 4-slot items, which would mean taking a helo and artillery. And I really don't want to take artillery anyway. I'm not going to take any. We'll just take another aircraft, I think, here. And I'm leaning towards taking more anti-air. But then I've got so much anti-air, it's a bit ridiculous. Let's take the laser-guided bombs, the GBU-12s. Let's give them a go. I keep putting it off. Let's give them a go. Okay. Recap. We're stuck at 49 to 50. I'm fine with that. So, logistics, pretty straightforward. M35 supply and the Chinook to resupply those. And then the chopper command, just for a change. I may regret that. Infantry, we've gone for the Engineers Flash. You only get 1 card, but they are exceptionally good and probably going to get nerfed. The Airborne Engineers, we've ended up with 2 cards of those. We've gone for the Military Police with the M67, 2 stacks of the Airborne because they're very good. We've gone 1 of the TOW 2. I would like to take more than 1, but I just don't think it's worth spending another card on that when you only get 3. We've got the Fire Team Dragon for putting in buildings. We've got the Engineer Leader because they're a huge squad. We've gone for, as I said, the other Airborne Engineers, and then some Airborne Dragons because they're a big squad and they have some long-range dragons. Artillery, you are extremely limited, and I just went with 1 of these and 1 of these. It was all about having mortars that were mobile, and, well, we only had 1 choice for artillery. Tanks, well, I've taken the Abrams because I feel like you need to take the Abrams, but I've only got 4 of them because I ranked them up. I've gone for the Sheridans because I feel like you need some kind of tank there just to deter people, but it's such short range, it's not going to fare well against enemy tanks. I've also gone for the command just because it's a command and it'll take a little bit of fire. And then the Humvee TOW because realistically you're going to be relying on TOW missiles in this deck. Recon, I've gone for the Bradley for the TOW missiles. I've gone for the Kiowa because of its exceptional radar, basically. The LRS because it, again, will be exceptional once it is stationary. And then also I've gone for some airborne scouts. I've spent a lot here in terms of the activation points because I've put the airborne scouts in as well, but I felt like I was very low on numbers here. Anti-air is not great in this deck. I've gone with the Avenger because there really isn't anything else there. I've gone with the Stingers because I like a man-pad in my deck. And I got with the Vulcan Cannon because, again, there's no other choices. You could consider the helicopters here, and if you are going to build a helicopter-heavy deck and an air-heavy deck, then I would definitely consider taking the OH-58Cs. And then you've got the Apache rockets. You've got the Apache rockets again, and then we've just gone for a standard Apache. You could even take the ATGM variant so you get a load more Hellfire missiles. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a bit more expensive. Obviously something to be said for taking Cobras as well because they get a lot of firepower, but obviously their cannon is nowhere near as damaging. Obviously these get stunned a lot easier now, suppressed, but they're still really good. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people with decks where this is just full of choppers. Aircraft, again, you can fill this up, I think, without having to fill up some of the rest of the deck. I've gone for both the F-15Cs. In my head, I'm thinking you could actually drop one of those and take the F-4E Phantoms instead. These are really good, but they're expensive. And you get 4 of the F-4E Phantoms. I think there's very good reason to take those, potentially. They're not bad at all. They still have a long-range missile. They're just not quite as good at everything else. That's all. The ECM's not as high, etc, etc. A-10 rocket because the only A-10 we get, and the rocket's still pretty good. It takes a bit of fire, and obviously it has the ridiculous cannon. The seed, because I feel like we need seed. We're going to be using a fair amount of aircraft in this deck, one way or another. Cluster, because we're going to need more anti-tank because our tanks are terrible. HE, it's not quite a carpet bomber, but it will do. And then the laser guided bombs, just because I really need to be trying them out and testing them more. So I stuck that in. I don't know about the AT. I'm really umming and ahhing over that. Its penetration isn't great. It's just the standard Maverick. I'm not... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't think it's bad. It's got decent ECM at least. So it is an option. But I wish there was an A10 anti-tank in there. But there's the deck. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned on the channel. We will hopefully have tournament casts coming up soon once Eugen fix it. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.